Well, hey there, smart people. You are about to see the 6 steps to becoming great. You know, I often have people ask me about what it takes to become great at something. Sure, because this channel deals with educational topics and the majority of my viewers are students in some sort of formal schooling. They want to become better students, but it also applies to anything and everything you want to do, whether it's playing an instrument, singing, acting, dancing, sports, writing, being an auto mechanic or a chemist or whatever. There are clear steps that you will go through. Doesn't matter who you are. Quite frankly, there's no way to avoid them. And when I tell you what they are, don't be surprised. This should come as some common sense. The reason I'm laying out these steps is so you don't get discouraged when you're struggling with something new. Knowing that there's a clear, unavoidable process that's in place will help you stay motivated when you understand that this is just something that must happen the way it does. Okay, here in the correct order are the 6 steps to achieving greatness. These are the exact steps you'll take when you're attempting anything new. Step 1, you are lousy at it. That's right. You're lousy, you're terrible at it. Let me ask you, how many of you have step 1 down cold? I know I do. Look, don't expect to be good or even fair when you're first starting to learn something brand new. You're going to be terrible at it at the beginning. Now, I'm telling you this, again, so that you don't get discouraged when you're attempting to do something new and you realize that you can't do it. I'm going to give you the rest of the steps in pretty quick order, but I want to take time with step number 1 here. Let's use an example of this that is common to every human being, and that's a baby learning to walk. I mean, it's so common it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It's universally true. Just watch a baby learn to walk. You know, they go from crawling around and eventually sitting up, and then they attempt to stand for the first time. Maybe they're holding on to a piece of furniture, wobbling around, and then they take 1, maybe 2 steps, and what happens? They fall right down, and they land with a thud on their butt. And what happens? They get that silly, giggly little look on their face, and they go, oh, okay. And then they do it again. They stand up and fall down, stand up and fall down, stand up and fall down over and over again until eventually they're able to stand up, take a few steps, and pretty soon before you know it, you're chasing them around the house. And they're giggling as they go. Look, if you gave that baby the personality of your typical 20-year-old, the kid would stand up and fall down once, twice, 3 times, and then the kid would crawl off thinking to themselves, hey, I tried this walking stuff, it ain't for me. That's what you've got to be careful of. Expect that when you're learning something brand new, at the beginning, you're just not going to be good at it. So now I'm going to go through the other steps pretty quick, and then we're going to come back and talk about why it works this way. All right, so the next step, step number 2. Is you're fair. You're no longer lousy. There's some good points and some bad points. Step number 3 is you're pretty good. And you see where we're going with this. This is common sense. This is no huge aha. Step number 4 is when you get to be good. Step number 5, you're really good. And step number 6, if you're really, really good for a long time, then sometimes people will call you great. So let's talk about how to apply this in the real world, in the practical world. Let me tell you a story from my own life. When my daughter was really little, she was always fascinated with singing. She eventually went on to front her own rock band. But when she was a little toddler, she would sing to everything, as a lot of kids do. One day she came to me and she stood in front of me as I was sitting in my big chair and she said, "Daddy, listen to me sing." And she sang a song from a typical Disney movie. And she said, "How was that?" I had already taught her the 6 steps. Now get this. Here's what she said after she was done with the song. She said, "Daddy, what step am I on?" Absolutely stunning that she would say that. What step am I on? And I was honest with her. I said, "Well, I got to tell you, some of your notes were pretty good. Some of your notes were only fair. And a few times you were way off key and it wasn't so great." And she accepted that because she didn't expect to be fantastic. She wanted a fair evaluation. Where am I at? It never got her discouraged. Now, eventually, she was so interested in singing, we eventually had her get singing lessons. And then in high school, she was invited to sit in with a band and not only help front the band, but got them a bunch of their bookings. And it was a really wonderful experience to see what she was able to do. This is a word of encouragement, because now that you know there's a process that's in place, you know, you don't get your brain all wired up where you're discouraged, where you go, "Oh, I'm just no good at this stuff." All you need to do is to have a little bit of persistence and evaluate yourself. Ask yourself, all right, what parts of this am I fair at? What parts of this am I pretty good at? And sooner or later, you're going to get good at stuff. You'll stay good. With some practice and some dedication, you can get really good. For many years, I have been a working musician. I perform under the stage name Zed Maestro, and I've done that now for decades. I'm a hard rock organist, a keyboard player. And one of my idols is from a band from back in the 60s and 70s called Deep Purple, and I'm a big fan of the organist John Lord. And there were some riffs that he would do that, quite frankly, were way out of my ability. I had no idea how to do it, but I would listen to it over and over, a little piece at a time, and get a couple of notes and then a couple of more notes until eventually I was able to do the whole run that he did in these famous songs. It was a real struggle at the beginning, but I was clear that I knew that I wasn't in his league. But I also knew that if he could do it, I could figure out how to do it. I didn't get discouraged. Here's another example. Many of you have watched some of my older YouTube videos, and you saw that on some of them I struggled with the lighting, or even when I moved into this new studio, I was having problems with the focus on my camera. All of that was brand new stuff. And so rather than just throwing my hands up in disgust and walking away and quitting, I said, you know what? Some of this I'm already pretty good at. Some of it I'm only fair at. There's other parts that really need to be fixed. So now apply it to yourself. When you're studying or you're taking a brand new course, you're learning a new language, you've now enrolled in a higher degree of mathematics or chemistry or physics, you're now about to take an exam that's, you know, like a really big deal for you. Step back for a moment and evaluate yourself fairly. Where are you at in the process? It'll stop you from being discouraged, and it will keep you motivated to persist, knowing that this is just the way life is. I wanted to keep this message really plain spoken, simple, and straight to the point. You can do it. Stop getting down on yourself. Just like my little daughter did when she was learning how to sing. Daddy, what step am I on? Look in the mirror. Ask yourself, hey, what step am I on? And be willing to move forward. Hope you like what I'm doing on this channel. If you do, be sure to subscribe, watch my other videos, hit that little bell icon to be notified every time I release a new one. As always, Matt DiMaio here, reminding you that everything I teach does take a little bit of work and effort, and it's worth it. Always remember that the fastest way to get to the top is to get off your bottom. Thanks for joining me.